Yeah. Thank you. Well, lunchtime I made a mistake, so I had to change. I'm the same person on the other side. All right. You probably remember this meme. Who of you attended a keynote? Okay, almost all of you. So then you know the meme. So who are we? FinOps practitioners. What do we want? Focus adoption. And when do we want it? Right now. Exactly. So let me first introduce to you Priyanka. But I will start a little bit from far away, because why I like to come to San Diego and be with you is because it's a lovely crowd. I always feel home here. And I think we share a common passion for FinOps. And that's what I see in Priyanka as well. Probably she's the most passionate person on earth about FinOps. And this passion comes through the workplace as well. And she's a very active people person. She's networking in the company. And she's also responsible for a lot of good results, savings in millions. And yeah, one more thing is that she's receiving the most positive feedback from the colleagues. Like we have a 360-degree feedback system, and she receives a lot. So, welcome, Priyanka.
Yeah, that's so kind, but yes, I feel that I'm a people's person because I do know everyone in the Delivery Hero. Yeah. So I'm really excited to share the stage with Loránt, who also happens to be my manager, my mentor, and one of the favorite person to work with. Well, I have not seen, I mean, he's saying that I'm really passionate, but I think Loránt is more passionate about, not just about the work that we do in Delivery Hero, but also about giving back to the community. He's been part of the meetups, he organizes the meetup, he's part of the writing white papers, giving it to do back to the community wherever it's possible. And I feel that he truly lives up to his title, which is FinOps Ambassador. And what we share together, like Loránt and I share the common love for FinOps, and working with him, it's never feel like a work. His energy, work ethics, and sense of humor, most importantly, is something that makes every task not just productive, but also fun. And today, sharing the stage with him is truly a privilege for me, and I can't just wait to share what we have been building in Delivery Hero with you all today.
Yeah, well, I'm humbled, but if you can put this in writing and send it to my boss, that would be of a help.
I will do that.
Good. All right, let's talk about our company. So our name is Delivery Hero. And talking to you guys on the corridor, many of you mentioned, oh, you have a cool name. But nobody knows what this company is really about. Yeah. But what's even cooler than the name is actually our mission statement, always delivering an amazing experience. And I like this mission statement because it applies to the market of our company, but also to the workplace that we are in, and even to this presentation, if you will. And I brought you 4 pictures to help you understand our business. As mentioned in the keynote, we are in the business of fast local delivery, and on the top left, you see one of our riders delivering something delicious like your hamburger or your groceries, and I included a picture on the bottom right as well, so that you can imagine how we work together in the Berlin office. But Delivery Hero is not just in Berlin. We are present in about 70 countries across the globe, spanning from Latin America through Europe, Middle East, and Asia. We also have our Asian colleagues with us from Korea. And in the financial year 2024, we have delivered 48.8 billion euros gross merchandise value. And we are not just about delivery, we're also about logistics, and we have 800 so-called D-marts, which are delivery-focused marts, which help us around big cities to deliver things fast and fresh.
Yeah, that's right. So Delivery Hero has a very strong market presence. I know you don't know the Delivery Hero, but we have our brands like Glow in Spain, Talabat in UAE, Buva in Korea, and Peridosha in Latin. Similar to Uber Eats in the United States, we all know that delivery market is really competitive, and to succeed, we just don't need to be agile, but efficient in every aspect of our operation. And that includes our SaaS consumption and cloud cost. And this is why FinOps is Absolutely essential for us. It's just not good to have, but it's a fundamental pillar of our strategy.
Right, and let's talk a little bit about our business and FinOps context. So we have grown by acquisitions, and we don't get to choose which cloud provider or which SaaS services the companies we buy use. So we naturally end up in a multi-cloud environment, which also applies to SaaS. And as you know, on the marketplace, there are more and more SaaS. I read a recent paper that the company the size of us typically has 400 to 600 SaaS products by now. And in our environment, we also have internal service duplications, because you can imagine all these companies we bought in different countries. They have developed similar services for ordering the food, a mobile application, for uploading the restaurant menu, a web application maybe, and so on and so forth. And if you go through these points, it really reflects also the focus evolution. Because in the beginning, focus with version 1.0 and 1.1 was all about, let's see the different cloud providers' data under one data schema. Now with the introduction on 1.2 that you heard in the keynote today, there is more features in it which are enabling SaaS adoption, such as new currency or different account types. And who knows what the next versions are holding. We've had actually discussion with Matt, the product manager of Focus recently, and I know that, for example, also for us, Kubernetes detailed visibility is something important to have, but we will show you, how we're working, for example, with the internal service allocation.
Yeah, so what motivated us to adopt something like Focus? Well, it began when we started listening to our users, precisely our engineering and product teams, who wanted to know about their SaaS consumption, not just about regular cloud costs. And they needed to know when it's happening, not after days or weeks latest time. This leads us to our second motivation, which is tracking actual versus budget costs. Relying on month-end invoices is often too late for teams to make any corrective measure. For example, if a team has overspent, we wouldn't know until it's too late to make any necessary action. And in Delivery Hero, we are not just tracking the unit economics. For us, it's very important to have a budget deviation as well. And that finally, with growing number of internal global services, we needed a way to allocate the cost to the teams who are using these services accurately and fairly. But well, these comes with its own challenges, like lack of standardization. We are dealing data coming from different provider and internal global services into different data structure and data format, which makes very difficult for us to have a unified view into our FinOps reporting system. That leads to a delay in reporting and requires a lot of manual handling in terms of spreadsheet. And this is what we saw Focus as a perfect solution to address these challenges that Delivery Hero is facing today.
Right, and we split our talk into two pieces. First, we will talk about Focus for software as a service and what we're doing there. And next, we will talk about Focus for internal service allocation. So let's get started with Focus for SaaS. And to illustrate this, I'd like to tell you our observability tale, because our company has decided fairly recently to change over from one provider to another. And as we were ramping down in the old provider and ramping up in the new, we faced some challenges. We learned that it's very difficult to attribute who's owning certain costs. And we actually swore not to commit this mistake yet again. So with the new provider, we were very careful to make sure we have the right cost visibility for our engineers, leadership, and our FinOps team. So we engaged the provider, and I'm happy to say that Rich from Grafana is also here with us. So if you will have questions to him, he will be around. And initially, we were more discussing a CSV and a custom format, a downloadable file. But then we realized that really what we need is Focus to be integratable to our systems. And in this, actually, Grafana saw also customer validation, because we were one of the first ones to ask for this, but since then others are also asking for it. And to make this work more productive, we decided to take a simplified approach, or more value-oriented, impact-oriented approach. Back then, we had only the 1.1 specification. And if you look at the specification, it's fairly large. If it's a PDF file, it's 122 pages. and it contains 50 columns. But out of these 50 columns, only 21 are mandatory. So you can immediately shrink the first iteration's scope. And if you think about, you go to a petrol station, fill your car, you get a receipt, you have actually 3 important information there. What did you buy? How much did you buy? And how much did it cost? So this is just 3 pieces of information. And of course, you need a little bit more because you sometimes need the currency, you want to know who issued the bill. And we ended up something like a little bit more than a dozen. So this extract you see on the screen, we practically extracted from the specification into a single sheet. And then in the first column, the colored column, we prioritized it. And whatever is number 1, that's what we asked for in the first iteration. And then other things can follow for full compliance. And I'm happy to say that Grafana announced that they are going to support from this month on a private preview. So if you're interested, if you're using Grafana, maybe it's interesting for you to contact your account manager and see, okay, can you sign up for this if you're into focus data?
Yeah, so I really like our Grafana journey because it gives a message that if you ask to your provider, they are open to look into your requirement and they are ready to work with your requirements. So, and building on our positive experience with Grafana and valuable lesson that we learned, we are now actively applying this insight while working with other providers. And to make it happen, we have been exploring a couple of questions along with the controlling and procurement team, as in how can we extend this approach to other providers. And one of the key strategies that we are following is to make it formal vendor selection criteria and make it a contractual requirement wherever it's possible, especially when you have a leverage, such as when you are onboarding a new tool or you are renewing your existing contract with your provider. Well, this gives a clear message to your provider about the cost transparency and data accessibility in a standardized format like Focus.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure many of you would like to see your different SaaS providers' data in the Focus format. I mean, for ourselves, I can imagine CDN, CloudFront, also the data platforms from my previous company, for example. They use Databricks, they use Snowflake, then it's interesting to see these in Focus format. All right, so let's move on and talk about Focus for internal service allocation. And I think I need to explain a little bit what I mean by internal services, and I brought 3 examples for these. So number 1 is that in Delivery Hero, we have a data platform. I did not include the name because it can be mixed up with something on the market, but it's not that. And this data platform is something that is used across the group, as we are a group of companies. So teams who want to build their own data solution don't need to take care of the security aspects, the compliance aspects, GDPR, and so on. They have a platform out of the box from a central data team. This data platform also serves as a single point of access for our users. So that's what we call the data unions. It's also very easy. And our FinOps team actually stores the data in here too. Another example of an internal global service is Perseus the cat. So Perseus is an actual cat who is the cat of one of our developers who did the system. And Perseus is a real-time user behavior analytics service. So we use this to understand how users are clicking buttons, using the basket, and so on and so forth in the mobile and web applications. And the last example is more a business-oriented example, incentives. So obviously, when you're on the market, you want to incentivize, for example, with discounts, your users to do more orders. And this is something that the company is offering as a central service too. And what's common in these internal global services is that they really behave like they were third-party SaaS services, but they are provided by an internal team to others.
Yeah, to illustrate why Focus is such a significant improvement for Delivery Hero, I'd like to quickly walk you through about the current allocation process of these internal global services. Well, it's a really delayed process, and it starts with service team who calculate the cost and oppose the billing cycle and share it with the controlling team. Then our controlling team manually recharge this cost to the consuming team, and that involves a lot of complex calculation in the spreadsheet. Finally, it comes to us, which is FinOps team, as a monthly aggregate. What we do is we evenly distribute this cost throughout the month. That means it lacks usage information and any pattern that it might have throughout the month. And it makes difficult for teams to identify any area of optimization and any pattern that they might have seen during the spike. And as you can see, this current allocation process has its own limitation that has a delayed in reporting. It requires a lot of manual handling in terms of spreadsheet and lacks detailed usage information. And this is what we aim to address with the implementation of Focus with our FinOps reporting system.
Yeah, so we are working on complementing this monthly chargeback with a daily showback. And I'd like to spend a bit more time here to explain how this is done. So what you see on the slide now as a starting point is our cost and usage data from a cloud provider. And for the sake of the example, I put a 10,000 euros total for this. And let's take one of our central internal global service, Perseus, for user behavior analytics. And the first thing to do here is to understand how much Perseus is using from the cloud, because Perseus is built on the public cloud. And you can already use filter based on the focus columns, such as account or sub-account, which in our case will total to an exemplary 1,000 euros. On the other side, Perseus usage can be measured as well and split across the users of Perseus. So again, as mentioned, this service, user behavior analytics, is used by, for example, mobile and web applications. So in the example, a total of 50 million events are measured, and which is split across different applications, the client order application, rider application, restaurant application, in 18, 17, and 15 million events respectively. If you watch carefully, you can realize that this data, which is coming from the service team, is already using the focus columns. So the consumed quantity and the consumed unit itself is from focus. There is one custom field, the X consumer name, which is an extended thing, which is something custom to us. And with these two information, so the consumption of Perseus from the cloud and the usage of Perseus, we can put together the allocation. And yet again, you see the focus columns one by one. And what you need to realize is that the provider name is not a cloud provider, but Perseus, the internal service. The rest is, simple maths. So in proportion to the 18, 17, 15 million events, if you split the 1,000 euros, that comes like on the slide, 360, 340, and 300 respectively. And what we can do with this is we can actually take out from the cloud provider bill, this piece, and replace it with the internal global service. So this means that we build a data set which is ready for the end user, and instead of them looking at how much compute, storage, or network Perseus is doing, they will be looking at how many million events am I consuming. Of course, for the Perseus team, it's still interesting what's in the original bill. So one is an allocated data set and one is a raw data set.
Yeah, so that's the best part of it, our vision. Our vision is to have everything in one place, all in focus format. That means we are bringing data coming from different public cloud providers, a SaaS provider, and now internal global services that we treat as internal SaaS providers, into one unified platform integrated with our FinOps reporting system. As you can see in the screen, now we have, teams can see their share of cost in AWS, GCP, SaaS, like observability or CDN, and finally you see a new column, internal global services. So they have everything at one place, so they don't need to go different places to find out what they are spending on different services. That means they have a now ability to track their budget more proactively, and they have more granular level of data and more usage detailed information in their system that gives them to optimize their costs more efficiently. And that's the vision that we have in Delivery Hero.
Yeah, so let's wrap it up.
Oh.
Still 3 slides to go, though.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we have learned a lot, we have covered a lot, but we still have 3 more slides. So let's just finish strong. Yeah, so the key takeaway that we have today for you is especially how to work with your SaaS provider is, first of all, ask for it. Don't assume that your vendor will provide data that you need in the format that you need. You need to be proactive and articulate your requirement for the data in standardized format like Focus. And wherever it is possible, make it a contractual requirement. We have said it a couple of times already, but it's really a very powerful lever, especially when you have leverage during the contract renewal or when you are onboarding a new provider. And then start slowly and build gradually, and that's what we did with Grafana. We did not ask everything at once. We are working in an iteration. We have given our requirement, we have given our columns requirement, which are more important to our teams, which can add the maximum value to our teams. And based on that, we have given the requirement, and we gave in such a simplified way so that it's easy for our provider also to work on those requirements. And yeah, we have finally, last but not the least, you have to follow up continuously, because building data integration like this takes a lot of time. So you need to be really patient, and you need to continuously have a communication with your provider to ensure the progress.
Right, I wanted to add here, Priyanka, that the simple form one sheet that we created, I think this is something, if you're interested, we can talk after the session, so that you don't need to do this specification extract from scratch. Please feel free to discuss this. All right, the other side, so how to work with the internal stakeholders. And spreading the word is the first bullet point here. What I mean by this, with Priyanka, we organized a Berlin meetup with 50-60 FinOps practitioners in March. And in this meetup, Ruben was there too, who's our room captain today, hey? And he asked the question, who of them know about Focus? And I was a bit surprised. It wasn't so many people at that stage. And then I was thinking, okay, if the FinOps practitioners don't know it yet, then how about the rest of the company? So I think it's interesting to spread the word, know about it, and use it. So using it. Use it before you have it. What does that mean? It means that even if you don't have a focused data set, you can do some things, especially if you have, for example, homegrown tools, whether it's a spreadsheet-based or more complicated data pipelines. You can already start to rename things. And I brought an example from us where we decided to rename certain columns. So one example, maybe a bit small on the screen, but I explain it. So these pictures are one of our most used reports, which has a lot of filters. These filters are the red filters there. And one of the filters is project here. And the different providers have different names for this same concept. So one of them calls it a subscription, the other calls it an account, and the third one calls it a project. So Focus standardizes on the account naming. So that's what we use here, and instead of project, we are renaming this to account. The other arrow you see is from total cost to effective cost. And what's the added value here in meaning is that effective cost clearly communicates that it's, so to say, what you pay, and all the discounts are included, and it is also an amortized cost. And it's easier for people to get familiar with one term, regardless of the provider, and I'm not talking about just cloud, but also the SaaS providers, rather than, try to come up with a funny name which includes 10 different names at once. And last but not least, engaging the FinOps personas. First of all, of course, the FinOps practitioner, us, the central FinOps team, is vital to this. And What we do here is we are making this our strategy to have our data set in focus. Next is procurement here. So procurement, as Priyanka mentioned, the selection criteria, the contractual requirements is something you can discuss with your procurement team. Sometimes maybe legal is involved for the contract part. For finance, I think the most important is to agree on the namings, on the taxonomy, and use the same, because if you speak two different languages, it will be very difficult to align. And also, if you communicate separately to your users from finance and from FinOps, it will be difficult to get on the same terms. For product, in our case, some example is we are working with the Perseus team and the data platform team, so that they provide this information and they put this on their product roadmap to provide this information in the focus format. What I mean is what I showed you on the former slide, like the consumption with the consumption units. And then leadership, of course. You always need the support and sponsorship of leadership. Without that, it's a difficult call. And finally, I think engineering is the one who needs to reap the benefits. And from a central FinOps perspective, most important is to communicate this clearly to them and repeatedly to them. Yeah. So what do we get when we're successful with this?
Yeah, so this is the best part of the entire session, I guess. What do you get when you are successful implementing focus in your organization? What are the tangible benefits that you get? What are the rewards? Well, you create a common language across your organization. Imagine a world where your engineering team, product team, leadership, everyone is talking the same language when it comes about the cost. That means less confusion and more alignment. Then you also have now capability to track your SaaS consumption in a real time, and that helps your engineering team to make faster decisions. And it actually simplifies everything, meaning you have less system, you have more standardized data structures, and it's easier to have scaling. Delivery Hero has a history of merger and acquisition, and we kind of anticipate that we'll have more acquisition in the future. So it makes easier for us to integrate data to our FinOps reporting system when we have a standardized data structure like Focus. That means we have less manual work, and it frees us the important time of our users to focus on the more strategic initiative. And yeah, we have the brownie point. It also unlocks the efficiency to calculate the unit cost of your services. And trust me, it's really powerful KPI to measure the value and efficiency of your services that you're using.
Right, I like brownie points and brownies too. So imagine that in the example we had the Perseus service, and for that service we would be able to, and we will be able to measure the cost per million events, for example. And if there is, I don't know, a cost spike, you will be able to tell whether this is because the unit cost increased or because the consumption is larger. So this is an added value on top. And any service we do this for, it will be coming out of the box. It's kind of a natural thing that the service will need to think about, okay, what is my unit of measurement, and then measure it. So this is a great thing. All right, still there are some challenges to address. And I brought 3 examples. The first example is from observability, and Rich knows this problem very well. I think he's racking his brain every night on this these days. So this is about the percentile-based billing, because in observability, you have, in the case of metrics, typically the number of metrics or the cardinality based on which the provider wants to bill you. However, sometimes there are spikes in this, and the provider does not want to penalize you because for 1 hour or for 1 day you had a special spike. So they cut it at the 95th percentile. And what's the challenge here? The challenge here is when you go from monthly to daily billing, then this 95th percentile will vary over the month until you can close the month. So in the beginning, your cost, it's not like your cloud provider where you cannot sum up or add up and total it, but it's more like an estimation, and you kind of need to wait until the end of the month for it to be a fixed value. So this is something yet to be solved, and I think this is a generic problem in many services. The next one is about data standards, but not focus, but more like different technology data standards. Here I brought the example of Kubernetes and OpenTelemetry, because the two have a different label or tag key for application or service. Kubernetes says, I think it's app.kubernetes.io/name, and then OpenTelemetry says it's service.name. But we fundamentally talk about the same abstract concept. And depending on which team you talk to, your infrastructure or your SRE, you will get different preferences. So this is something to agree on, and maybe a good solution could be here to agree on a simple term like service or application, which then can be used across the board. And the last example is credit application. So your providers apply credits in very different forms, and out of the box, they might not be fair. So when we allocate the cost to the different entities, the different companies and different verticals, practically our tech controlling team is doing that. But for the daily visibility, our FinOps team is processing this. Then you need to recalculate it. So you need to take out the data first, process it, and put it back so that it's fairly allocated. And probably there are a lot more challenges. And if you have any of these, please feel free to ask a question about this or come to us. And actually that wraps up our talk. And the floor is open for questions, unless Ruben has something to say.
No, open up for questions.
Yeah, we have one here.
Here comes a good question, I think. There you go.
Yeah, thanks very much for the presentation. I was wondering in your future state for chargebacks, if you'd considered the potential of charging based on a per unit rather than bundling the allocation and dividing by the unit, and what trade-offs you were evaluating for that?
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Let me go back to the slide so that everybody sees that. I think you're referring to this one, right? So here you imagine that the basis of the monthly showback would be the million events, right? This is what you're referring to.
Correct.
Actually, this is what is happening. Yeah. So this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair towards the users. What's a challenge here, however, is that the unit cost may vary. Yeah, and probably some of you experience this because Perseus, for different reasons, will consume every month different amounts, and it may have more a part of the cost which is, let's say, fixed cost-like, and so your unit cost will vary. And then your users could complain, okay, last month I got this for X, now I'm getting it for X plus 1 or X minus 1 Y. It's because, on the market, when you sell a product, you have a price, not a cost. And in the price, you typically include profit. But this is an internal service which we are not, operating as a profit center, but it's more like a cost allocation. So that's what comes to mind. Yeah, pros and cons here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cool. More questions?
First of all, great presentation, both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have two questions. Number one, in your organization, where the FinOps team resides? Is it in finance, IT, procurement?
So imagine this. I mentioned in the beginning that we have a lot of different brands, which we internally also call platforms. And there is a central entity. And the central entity provides mostly these internal global services, and that's where FinOps is residing as well. So it's in the central technology organization, I would say. So we are reporting to the line of the CTO eventually. But it's a bit more complicated because we have multiple CTOs. Yeah, every country might have its entity, and then they have their local CTO, but there is a group CTO as well. So we are reporting to the group CTO.
Okay. And the reports that you generate, who consumes? Do you send to all to consume, or?
It's quite open. I mean, there are specific things we do. For example, actual versus budget is something that we target mostly for engineering management and CTOs. But practically speaking, the FinOps dashboards, which we generally provide, and actually we build them internally, they are available to all engineers.
And they are the single source of the truth in the organization. So that's the only place that engineers can come and see their cost. So that's the single source of truth. So, because it has all the logic in place, like credit, support, taxes, and other stuff. So that's the place where teams can see their actual cost.
Yeah, so we're watching out actively that people are not trying to duplicate what we do, because this special processing like the credits, or we have some special allocation for BigQuery, for example. If someone would just download the raw reports, they would not get these, and they would naturally get to different numbers. So this is the single source of truth, but we do not prevent people to create their own reports. So
but the data set is ours.
Correct. So they need to use our central data set. We offer generic dashboards from our FinOps team. We have a few engineers working on this, and we offer the data set itself as well. And if somebody has a specialized need which is not useful for everyone in the group, then they can build their own reporting on this data set. Then we know that it's all from the same source.
Thank you. Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thank you so much for watching and for your support. For more FinOps X 2025 content, go check out our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and leave comments and questions for all of our wonderful speakers. We appreciate your support.